Planning and Zoning meeting tonight for Thursday, November 7th, 2019. Our first order of business tonight will be our public hearings, and the first one is Section 405.050, Definitions and Interpretations. Mr. Fick, you want to bring us up to date on that?
All right, good evening, Planning and Zoning Commission. For your consideration tonight, the first public hearing will be the amendment to Section 405.050, Definitions and Interpretations, to include the definitions of straw bale home, straw bale, shipping container home, shipping container, and truck stop. I ask that the ordinance of the City of Warrenton be made part of the record by reference, the comprehensive plan of the City of Warrenton be made part of the record by reference, and the package shown as ADM 106 on the agenda to be made part of the record by reference, which includes the publication notice of tonight's public hearing that was posted in the Warrenton County Record.
I'm here to speak on behalf of that. We'll close that public hearing and open A, listing of permitted and conditional uses.
For the second hearing, we ask for your consideration of Appendix A regarding the listing of permitted and conditional uses for straw bale home, shipping container home, mobile home, and truck stop / travel plaza with overnight stay. I ask that the ordinance of the City of Warrenton be made part of the record by reference, the comprehensive plan of the City of Warrenton be made part of the record by reference. The package shown as ADM 105 on the agenda be made part of the record by reference, which includes the publication notice of tonight's public hearing, which was posted in the Warren County Record.
After we get that, hearing none, we'll close that public hearing and open up our final public hearing for this evening. That's 1014 Arlington Way, conditional use permit -64.
The third and final hearing, we ask for the review of conditional use permit for Lot 32, 1014, 1016, and 1018 Arlington Way. I ask that the ordinance of the City of Warrenton be made part of the record by reference, the comprehensive plan of the City of Warrenton be made part of the record by reference, and finally the packet shown as CUP-64 on the agenda be made part of the record by reference, which includes the publication notice of tonight's public hearing, which was posted in the Warren County Record.
First order of business will be our minutes from our September 5th, 2019 meeting.
Motion to approve the minutes for the September 5th, 2000.
We'll say about Mr. Questions or comments? I'll vote.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Costello?
Yes. Yes.
Dano is absent.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Urban?
Yes.
Next order of business will be Section 405.050, Definitions and Interpretations, labeled under ADM-106.
Alright, so we have for the definitions and interpretations intended to add straw bale home, straw bale shipping container, home, and truck stop. So we recommend the approval to provide these interpretations for those. So they're later added to the appendix. So that way we'll ask that we don't allow the straw bale homes and the shipping containers, and we will discuss the truck stop that allows a 24-hour stop as well.
Can I ask, I love the fact that we're not putting either permitted or conditional. Why are we interested in truck stops?
That's just to add the overnight. So right now our truck stop doesn't allow the overnight. This is just truck stop. Our definition is not added in there right now. As I went through, I noticed that truck stop wasn't added at all. So we have truck stop in there, but we did not have it for overnight. So I added the definition for truck stop. Definitions, so straw bale home, dwelling whose walls are constructed of bales of straw, compressed, wire-tied, or string-tied in large units and built up in a concrete slab as they were oversized bricks. straw bale, rectangular compressed block of straw bound by ties. The shipping container home, a dwelling constructed of one or more shipping containers that have been modified for residential use. A shipping container, a portable storage container designed and manufactured according to the specifications from the International Standards Organization ISO as a standard reusable vessel intended to be loaded on a truck, rail car, or ship, used primarily for shipping goods. And then truck stop, a facility used for fueling and servicing of trucks, including accessory uses such as truck wash, sleeping accommodation, showers, restaurant, and gift shop.
Questions or comments? Second by Mr. 5.050 definitions and interpretations as amended. Comments? Call vote.
Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Condon? Yes. Cooper?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Absent. Next order of business will be Appendix A, the listing of permitted and conditional uses under the ADM-1.
As for the approval for the amendments to Appendix A listing the permitted conditional uses regarding straw bale homes, shipping container homes, mobile homes, and truck stop plaza overnight stay.
Maybe this is a better place for the question. Why would we want overnight stay truck stops?
I looked.
Anywhere in this.
Well, it's not permitted anywhere in the city. It is in C3, M1, and M2.
I guess to rephrase, why would we want an overnight truck stop to be allowed in any
Just at most locations, the trucks, they're allowed to stay overnight, whether they go in and use the showers or use the facilities. So I used it. It better prepares. It makes those drivers. It allows them to be safer if they have a place, but it just opens up opportunities for other businesses as well that provide overnight stays.
if I look at communities in our communities that have truck stops. My point is, I don't like the idea of there being overnight stay allowed. And so, if I look at communities we would like to emulate, or I feel like we would like to emulate, those that don't have truck stops are more appealing than the ones that do. So, my point is, I think it's great to define it, but I like the idea of what we're doing with the straw bale homes and the container homes and things of that nature, which is we define it, but there's nowhere in the city that it's allowed, and that's my perspective on truck stops.
Well, the only reason why we left it out to be allowed right now is because we need to do more research on it, and at this point, with those, as a building official, I just looked at it that the methods, at this time, we're not confident with the building methods, and we want to make sure that those types of structures are actually, we don't want to have them in subdivisions that are already established.
Right. I'm not challenging the straw bale homes. What I'm saying is the way that we've defined those is we're defining it so that our appendix basically says we understand what it is. There's just nowhere in the city that you can put it. But with the 24-hour overnight stay truck stops, we're saying conditional in C3, M1, M2. My point is, I look at the community that I think are thriving communities that have things going in the right direction. I don't know of any truck stops that exist in those communities, and my point is So instead of saying, I'm okay with defining the overnight stay truck stop in the appendix, I don't like the idea of saying that we'll let them be conditional in C3, M1, and M2. I'm saying I would much prefer that we define it, but basically say there's no place in the city that we do it. Alderman, it's a revenue generator. I'm just, if you look at places where truck stops exist, those are not conducive to a better way of life.
Give me an example of a really tough. Are we talking about like the truck stop down here at Wright City, the rest area, or are we talking about like a place like that one at Forestdale on the left that has the big trucks for sale, and they have a place that they
I guess
operate on these?
the closest one I guess you would compare it to would be Wright City because they actually have overnight. That's the closest one I could think of. But right now we have truck stops. We just didn't have anything with overnight, so I matched that because if there's potential, then make sure that we've got something in place that also lists the conditions. Where would we allow truck stops? And so these locations C3, M1, and M2, but you still have the ability to put the conditional use on it, so you can put whatever conditions you want. It's just adding the overnight part. So if it's the overnight that you are questioning, then how do we address, what is the issue with overnight? I mean, what are our concerns with having an overnight stay? So we can put those conditions on that.
Well, I'd be a lot more comfortable with it being prohibited as opposed to being conditional. So the point is, and we've got out at the next exit west, we have them. Certainly, we have them in Wright City and Forestdale. And when the new overpass went in, there was a potential property developer that talked about the desire to put a fuel center in, and there was we had some conversation in planning and zoning about what that would look like, and my point at the time was that I don't think that those types of operations benefit the people who live here. I mean, they do create some jobs, but by and large, they don't benefit the community as a whole. They put a tremendous amount of wear and tear on our infrastructure. If you look at Forestdale, for instance, those service road areas are always rough and beat up and hard to drive on. The traffic circles, the roundabouts out here at the new exit, I don't think are anywhere near large enough to really facilitate an 18-wheeler moving through. And so what I'm saying is I don't think our community needs, and I don't think our community benefits from truck stops. So my point is define it and prohibit it, but don't make it conditional.
But we already have truck stops in there, just not the overnight. So
right. So define it and then say it's prohibited. I mean, if we want to talk about changing the appendix for truck stops in general and making those prohibited, I'm all for it. But the idea that by matching the 24-hour overnight stay conditional use on the same zones that we already have conditional use truck stop without an overnight stay, I mean, putting the definition in about overnight stay, which basically says that any truck stops that are conditionally approved don't allow it, is great. They can't do it, but I'm just saying I think the better way to plan for our community is to not have truck stops, and is not the way.
Okay.
Kind of sort of the other way too. Loves us putting island truck stops and stuff are a lot different than the ones that like the Flying J and the one in totally banned.
I don't have an issue with how they're configured. I have an issue with that they're coming into our community and using the infrastructure here, coming on and off the highway and coming in on our city streets. And so I feel like obviously you've got to have trucks move through the community because they deliver things to different manufacturers and supply places and whatever else. But setting up a fuel center where they're coming in to buy fuel, where we gain a little bit of revenue from the sales, I don't think is worth the wear and tear and the additional traffic and the nuisance that it creates for the. That's my point.
Talk into the,
How would this affect our unofficial overnight truck stop Walmart parking lot? I mean, we have trucks that are there overnight. If you're like me and on those occasions when you shop at Walmart and you go very early in the morning, you can see the trucks there. So I agree with what Scott is saying. I don't think would be beneficial to the community to increase the number of overnight truck stops. You know,
Referred to Walmart, and for me, I look at that as being an unsafe situation, having all the trucks at Walmart. I would rather have them in another location where I'm not driving through, where you can't see through all of the lanes. So that's an argument. Then I definitely wouldn't want the trucks parked at Walmart. I would much rather see them somewhere else that's designated for trucks or semis.
If you allow a truck stop anywhere in Warrenton, then they're allowed at Walmart. Walmart is its own zone. It's its own zoning category that doesn't exist anywhere else in the city. And when Walmart was brought in, the Board of Aldermen at that time, whether they realized it or not, approved to allow, in Walmart's zone, anything permitted anywhere in the city is permitted at Walmart. So they can do whatever they want. So if we don't want them to have overnight truck stays at Walmart, then we need to not have overnight truck stays anymore.
how do we go about changing the appendix to remove those from those zoning districts?
So yeah, all you have to do is vote. So did we not want overnight at all? So is it the overnight because we already have the truck stops? So are we just voting no for an overnight stay then?
Well, we already approved the definition of it.
Correct.
Just as we approved the definition of straw homes, container homes.
Right.
The difference is with straw homes and container homes, the appendix basically does not allow them to be permitted or conditional anywhere in the city. So they're defined. You just can't do them. And so
Asking for the same.
So my point is with the truck stops, we defined it when we just voted a few minutes ago. But the appendix amendment that we're looking at right now is suggesting that we make the overnight stay conditional in the 3 zones where it's already conditional for truck stops that don't have overnight stay.
Right.
So my answer to you, to Mrs. Blondin, would be, my preference would be that we've already defined it now for 24-hour overnight stay, or 24-hour operation, but that I would prefer that we remove the conditional use for the 3 zones, the C3, M1, M2, and then maybe I think it's worth consideration for future that we look at amending the appendix to take the conditional use for truck stops with no overnight stay out of the mix. Obviously, anything that operates with that now would be grandfathered, but I just don't think that our community, the way that our having tractor trailer up is.
Well, I'm at the point where we just built this fancy overpass, and we need to get some of our cash back into somebody that would stop down the area. Sounds like market.
Exactly what I'd like to keep those trucks out of there.
Like gloves or anything.
I think that, this went in. Growth and I'd make a motion we approve the amendment to the appendix with the provision that the 24-hour overnight stay defined truck stops not be permitted or conditional use in any zone.
While we're on that topic, homes before,
Aren't the mobile homes not?
they're not permitted any parks now, correct? Whereas before they were.
Or
Are.
it was
They are until they're
it
vote on
was
this.
it was listed that no one quite knew where they were allowed at. So now we make sure that they're not going to go into an established subdivision that has one lot when everything else is stick built. So yes,
Oh.
so we have mobile home parks. So yes, so they would be allowed in mobile home parks still.
But like a non-conforming lot, you couldn't put a mobile home on it, but might not meet the minimum square footage to put a regular house built, a stick-built house on it. So you couldn't put on a
No, you
non-conforming
couldn't
lot.
put the mobile home on. And most of the lots that I think that I only know of 2 lots that are like that right now. And they still couldn't put double wides on there now.
I couldn't.
No, they could not. That's why, no.
We'll have to talk later. So they couldn't before come into town on any lot that wasn't in a subdivision. They couldn't?
Um,
Or it just
or
wasn't really defined?
It wasn't really defined, so that's why we're making sure that it's defined now, yes.
The way I read it is that it's conditional in a park that's zoned Ag 1 or R3. So we've got a park now that's an R3 zone that it's conditional.
Yes, and you're able to change it. If you've got 5 acres and 2, you can actually change that to a mobile home park if you have acres and 2.
So someone could come into a mobile home park.
At 5
They
acres.
had 5 acres.
Yes.
The new definition is just manufactured mobile home, not in a park, is not permitted or conditional.
Correct.
Well, to vote, approve it with the,
Right, to eliminate the conditional provisions in the R3, M1, and M2, I'm sorry, the C3, M1, and M2 zones so that overnight stay is defined but not permitted or conditional in any zone.
Can you give me an idea of M, or is there an M1, M2?
Manufacturing, those
I don't have them.
really nothing. At those locations.
Now, if we
no,
add that and then we vote on that one, or are we gonna?
the way it's gonna be presented to the Board of Aldermen would be exactly how he presented it to us tonight, correct? And then our suggestion would be not to approve it, but they can do with what they wanted. Basically the way that works. But if we vote yes, if it's 3 to 5, then that would send a message to them. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, I do agree. I've been saying for years now that we need to do something about the mobile homes because we're letting them willy-nilly about. And
Right.
That's
That's why, and that started when that conversation came up that evening, and they went to work on that.
I say that what we do is separate them out. We make a motion to do for the Appendix A for everything except for the overnight. And then that way we can make that a separate motion, and then you can vote on that one separately if you'd like. So the first motion would include
By
for
presenting.
your manufactured home, straw bales, and your shipping container homes to amend Appendix A for those three items only. And then we would make a second motion that would deal with just the overnight stay for the truck stops. So that way everybody's on the same page of what we're voting on.
Well,
Yeah. So if you would like to,
Yeah, so I'll withdraw the original motion and instead make a motion that we recommend the approval of Appendix A, Item 9, manufactured and mobile home, Item 10, straw bale or hay bale home, and Item 11, shipping and container home, in which they are not permitted or conditional in any area of the city. So that's my motion.
second by Ms. Condon. Stated. Any other questions or comments? Roll call vote for that issue.
Yes.
Mr. Taylor? Costello?
Yes.
Cullum?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Irvin?
Yes.
Condon?
Yes.
Passes 8-0 with absent. We're back up for.
Before we do this, basically it's going to stay here, but all areas would be blank. There would be no conditional, there would be no definition. The reason why I'm saying that is because it's us. And 5 years down the road, the city changes scope and the city wants to actually have this. I just want to make sure that it's still at least defined. Here's the definition, and it's there right underneath the truck stop travel plaza. It's here, truck stop travel plaza with overnight stay. So if the city's vision changes in 5 years, it would just be a matter of coming back here and saying, yes, we'll add conditional to item number 7.
That's correct. It would still be on there, so
Okay.
if in the future you wanted to change it, we can come back to it and actually change that. Or if you just wanted to do just C3, or we decided that there's another location, outside of that area.
There are other defined zoning items
Areas
in
that
the
are
appendix where they exist, but that they're not permitted or conditional in any of those areas. And that's my point is, I think the definition of it is good because it specifies that we understand what it is, but if we eliminate the ability to have it be a conditional use. And what it is, I'll make a motion then on our appendix for the definition of the truck stop travel plaza with overnight stay to be added to the appendix with no permitted and no conditional uses in any zones in the city.
Second.
Motion. Second by Mr. Cullum. Out any. Questions or comments? Roll call vote.
yes. Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Costello? Cullum?
Yes.
That's the 6th in front of the Board of Aldermen on November the. When is the? When is the Board of Aldermen meeting? 19th. Alright, on to item number 4, lots 53 and 54 of Navajo Trail, Villages of Warrior Ridge, Subdivision -75.
That's 53 and 54, and we have Bart here as well, Mr. Bart, to answer any questions for you. So an application was submitted, approval to have the front building lines modified from 30 feet to 20 feet.
Oh, sir.
Sure. For the record, Bart Corman, Lewis and Beatty Surveyors and Engineers, here to present to you this re-subdivision plat of lots 53 and 54. The zoning allows for a 20-foot setback. When this plat was done years ago, for some reason it had a lot larger one than that, and so we're replatting that to put the setback to match the current zoning.
The minimum requirements, that it was just marked as 30 back then, and changing it back to 20, so it meets the minimum requirement for that.
Lots on either side.
They're in the process of being built, and some of them have 20-foot building lines. Yeah, and right to match them up. Yeah, and they're actually owned by the same owner. These two, so you even take out those issues.
Sidewalks would be required in those.
Questions or comments?
Make a motion to
Second by Mr. Beach. Lots 53 and 54 of Navajo Trail, Villages of Warrior Ridge, Subdivision -75, as submitted. Any other questions or comments? Roll call vote.
London?
Yes.
Yes.
Taylor? Costello? Colum?
yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Urban?
Motion passes 8-0 with 2 absent. Next order of business will be lots 33 and 53 of Timber Drive, Subdivision -74.
Okay, lots 33 and 53 Timber Drive. So an application was submitted for boundary adjustment to change those lot lines between there to make lot 53 a future buildable site. So, and according to the way now it's pie shaped. Well, I'll just let Mr. Bart answer all your questions or explain this issue here.
Sure. For the record, Bart Corman, Lewis and Beatty Surveyors and Engineers. The boundary adjustment plat here between 53A and 33A. We're moving the line to square it up a little bit more with Timber Drive, as well as not on this plat, but to explain to that, there's a sewer easement that cuts through there, and the owner is going to relocate the sewer around and abandon that easement, so then therefore make it a better buildable lot for 53, and still keep a good buildable lot for lot 33A. So that's the purpose, but there is some cost that's involved that you guys don't have to deal with, which is relocating that sewer line.
So the way that this drawing exists on paper, the lot line between 53A and 33A is drawn where you're asking it to be moved to, correct?
Yes, the solid lines we're proposing to move it to.
Is the dashed line the existing lot line at the moment?
That is correct, which is at a different slant than the sewer easement. Yeah. So the front corner is actually being held. It's just a.
Right behind
Yeah,
you
it's
there.
behind it. Yeah, he's got it pulled up.
You can see that the front corner, the old iron rod there, is being held, and so it's just basically being rotated down.
Basically open.
Changing this, it meets the minimum requirements for that subdivision. And sidewalk will be required when lots 53 and 55 are developed.
53 and 30.
I'm sorry, yes.
Anybody else have any questions or comments for Mr. Corman? Any motion?
33 submitted.
Second by Mr. Urban. Subdivision -74. Lots 33 and 53 of Timber Drive. Comments? Roll call vote.
Mr. Durbin?
Yes.
Condon?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor? Costello?
Yes.
Mr. Cullum?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes. Motion passes 8-0 with 2 absent. Thank you, Mr. Corman. Are you on the next one too?
You betcha.
I was going to cancel the rest of the meeting.
That's
All right, next order of business will be 1014 Arlington Way, conditional use permit -64.
And I'll be abstaining from this discussion.
Application for conditional use permit to allow lot 32, 1014, 1016, and 1018 to be divided into 3 individual lots. This, I'll let Bart explain because Bart, go ahead.
Sure. So on this one, we came through about a year ago or so with conditional use for constructing a triplex, which is any multifamily requires a conditional use. And in that, we didn't get a second conditional use that allows for us to split the lots up. And so we're coming back again here to ask for the condition to actually split the lots so that you can have fee simple title to individual unit instead of all 3 units being on one lot. So that's what we're here for. Similar,
In the future, they could be sold as individual.
they could be, yeah, similar to what is in the rest of that subdivision there and many of our other duplex developments in the town.
It does allow individual ownership for the triplex, and the subdivision will not be adversely affected by the adjacent properties.
On this issue.
Move we approve the conditional use permit for Arlington Way, the divisions there.
Second.
Tell them to approve conditional use permit -64 for 10. I'll vote.
Yes.
Barton?
Yes.
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 Passes 7 absent 1. Any questions or comments? Time for
Question. I have a question for Mr.
Oh, sure.
Built on one large lot and then comes back and they divide it up.
So, over the history of the last 15 years or so, quite a few, almost all of them, the zoning code changed. Well, the interpretation of how to be those divided changed probably 8 to 10 years ago. Prior to that, they were done by meets and bounds, and so they didn't even come through the board because once it was presented, conditional use. For example, like Villages Warrior Ridge, you saw all those quadplexes there. That was kind of a blanket conditional use back then, so you can put a quadplex on each of those lots, and there was no process to split them up through city code, and so they were done with meets and bounds. Then city code changed a little bit and said you can't do meets and bounds any way, shape, or form. Similar to like what we had to do with CEF, we still had to go through a subdivision process. So, but then there was a code when that happened that allowed for existing multifamily developments, such as this lot here and those, that they can go through a conditional use to divide those up. And so that's the process that we have to go through at this time. No problem.
All right, we'll close the meeting and turn it over to Mr. Fick.
have is the ribbon cutting for Papu's Cuban Cafe. It's going to be on November 15th at 10 a.m. at 115 D East.
Good food there too.
Right next to H.
Next to the gun shop.
Formerly Two Girls.
Again,
It was, what was the formerly Two Girls Artisan Shop? Yeah.
Old bakery. This
open.
authentic Cuban.
They're actually open already.
It's their grand opening.
It's
So
their
the ribbon
grand
cutting.
opening,
The
yeah.
ribbon.
Yeah, it looked pretty. I haven't tried the food, but it looked
And
really
the,
neat in there.
And the RV lot over on Armory Way. That's they're up and running, and
Yeah, yes.
Yes.
Yes, because they were able to move right in there, so there's no issues. So, yeah.
personally, I think that's a great place for that. I don't know if anybody else agrees with me, but if you're going to put something like that,
But it was perfect. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
in another lot where they're doing sales.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And it's better than having an abandoned building there that's not generating anything.
Speaking of abandoned, how hard is it to change?
What, want to ask me to, what is going,
Boathouse,
on?
I can answer that.
but the concrete.
I stole all the doors. I didn't steal them, but I got all the doors out of it the other day. That the house is being tore down, and it's destroyed inside. If anybody's even, I mean, if you want to see a house that renters can.
Yeah, Mike would have got demolition.
Windows broke out. I mean, all the back windows are gone. Junk everywhere. It's a complete total disaster.
Ask anything for the good of the group? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So,
Mr. Deitch is on the call. Anybody second? Second. Thank you. Mr. Cooper, all in favor, say aye. Thanks for coming out. Have a good evening.